Cast with Lonzo in command. Brought to you by Compton Entertainment Chamber, across the land. News and information, straight and uncut, we deliver. Real talk every time, sharp like a sliver. Like and subscribe, stay tuned, let's ride.
Hello, everyone. You're live with Lonzo right here on the Hub City Legend podcast. And today I have a very interesting guest, a lady I met hanging out one night. We were just hanging out, and I just happened to be doing a little bit of ear hustling, and I heard what she was into. Yeah, I was ear hustling. Yes, I was. I heard what she was into when I found out she was a nurse, and she was into her. One of the things she focuses on is dementia and Alzheimer's. I had to have her on the show talk about this. This is something that as we get older, we're dealing with our parents, and some of us dealing with it ourselves. My guest today is Tia Delaney. How you doing, Tia?
I'm good. How are you, Lonzo? Thank you
I'm
for having
doing
me today on the
I'm
podcast.
fantastic. I missed your last. I'm sorry. I'm Tia Delaney Stewart. My bad.
Yes,
Anyway,
Tia Delaney Stewart. That's okay.
that's all right. Tia, I know you're a nurse. You're in the nursing field. How did you become involved with dementia and Alzheimer's?
So yeah, it's kind of like did it the backwards way. I didn't really start out to be a geriatric nurse focusing on Alzheimer's disease and dementia. But as a nurse working in home health and hospice care and going into the LA City, really our Black and Brown communities, teaching people on high blood pressure, diabetes, or maybe going in to do wound care or post-hospital care. I noticed that, in a lot of our families, we live with our parents or grandparents. And in about 20 to 30% of the homes where that was happening, I'd noticed some cognitive or some behavioral memory issues with the family member. And I'd ask them, does your mom have Alzheimer's disease or does your dad have some form of dementia? And a lot of times they just say no, they're just, elderly or, they just get confused as they get older. And so it made me really keenly aware that the Black community really had very little knowledge about Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And so I just really began to learn all I could on my own. And when I realized there was a correlation between high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, and dementia and brain health, I really put forth my effort into sharing that information. One day I was out in community, someone from the Alzheimer's Association seen me teaching and asked me to become a volunteer, and I did. And then fast forward, I came on board as their director of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I've been there now in this capacity for 4 years.
Okay, fantastic. Now you're doing an event coming up shortly about dementia. Tell us about that event, please.
Yeah, so this event is really curated around a specific population, which I think is one of the most effective ways of teaching in community. So this event is Black Men in Dementia, and we're going to be showing a film called The Caregiver, which is written and directed by a gentleman by the name of William Bright. And although it's fictional, it's loosely based on his relationship with his dad, who had Alzheimer's disease. And so we're going to show the short film, which is about 27 to 30 minutes, and use that as a catalyst to really talk about Black men as caregivers for their loved ones with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, because we don't have places for them to share that information. And so this is the second event of its kind. We did one in Carson at Cal State Dominguez Hills earlier in 2025, and this one we'll be doing in Compton at the Dollar Hide. And so I'm really excited about this event and sharing this information in community.
Give us the details. What day? What time? Is it free? Is it
Yeah,
a mission
it
cost?
is free. It is free to everyone. It is going to be Thursday, July 15th. It starts at 5:30 p.m. It's 5:30 to 8 p.m. on Thursday, July 15th at the Dollar Hide in Compton. We're going to have some refreshments. Parking is free. The first few minutes we'll be doing some, networking, but it's going to be jam-packed with the movie. We're going to have a panelist of folks who are in the film, but also people who are caregivers in the community. And then we're going to have some Alzheimer's resources and support there as well for people who are either caregivers or in the early stages of disease and just really want to learn more.
I think that caregiver part is one of the things that kind of struck my nerves. I know my dad didn't have dementia; he had a stroke, and we had to find a caregiver and become caregivers for him. Sometimes we don't think about that till it hits home, and there'll be resources for this as well, correct?
Yes, and I think that's such an important part of the conversation is because we don't talk about these things and we, for some reason, don't realize that as we age, that need for a caregiver may increase. We're not prepared. And so this allows folks to say, well, I'm not dealing with this now, but now you can get the resources to begin pre-planning so that when or if something like this happens, you have resources at your fingertips to begin making those calls looking for a caregiver, not only the resources, but maybe also facilities and residential care sites that may be important as your loved one ages, especially with Alzheimer's and dementia.
What type of symptoms? I mean, I know symptoms, but what actually causes Alzheimer's? Is that something that we can prevent, or we can change the diet, or do something different in our lifestyle as we get older to prevent Alzheimer's and dementia?
We have about 14 evidence-based risk factors for Alzheimer's related dementia. So there are over 100 different reasons or types of dementia. And people don't realize that dementia is just that umbrella term. Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia. And so dementia just means you're confused, you have some cognitive or behavioral memory impairments, but we need to find out why. Alzheimer's is the disease that causes dementia, and it's usually related to 60 to 80% of all dementias. Now, we know this is caused by a toxic protein on the brain, two proteins called amyloid and tau, which we see during a PET scan. But there are lots of things that we can do along our aging journey to minimize our risk. And so a couple of them are lifestyle changes, which is diet and nutrition. And so we know eating a healthier diet, the Mediterranean diet has been one that has really shown to lower your dementia risk. And then mobility. And it doesn't mean going to the gym. It could be soft, compassionate movements. You can just be walking. You can be gardening. You could be dancing. All the line dancing we're doing nowadays. That's a good way of moving your body. And also cognitive engagement because you're talking to others socially and engaging with people. And that is another way to lower your dementia risk. We know that smoking increases our dementia risk. And then a big one, Lonzo, is sleep. We don't talk enough about sleep, but sleep greatly impacts your dementia risk by 30 to 40%. And so those are just some of the things that you can do to lower your dementia risk. And also keeping in mind that if you do have high blood pressure or diabetes or other heart diseases, that you really need to get those under control, either with management or lifestyle changes, because high blood pressure increases your risk for Alzheimer's disease by 30 to 40%.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! That
I
was
know, and that's
that was,
why we have to have these conversations.
you know what? And that's why I like doing these kind of shows, because we don't hear about this kind of stuff enough. Um, we
No.
don't we don't hear about strokes, and we don't hear about strokes, dementia, um, heart attacks, and just
Hmm.
the lack of mobility. Because
Yeah,
as we age, if we don't pay attention to our diet and activity rate, we'll find ourselves being diagnosed with these kind of situations. And now in some cases it could be too late. You know,
yeah, yeah.
even as a prostate cancer survivor, that's why I promote what I do. Because again, if we
Hmm.
don't make people aware of these things, you can't wait till you have symptoms to try to prevent something. It's kind of too
Exactly.
late. It's kind of too late.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
and if we don't do it, it won't get done.
That's right. And that's why I feel like it's up to folks like you and I and other leaders in community to really help people connect the dots. Because I feel like when we talk about high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, we're really always thinking about our waistline and how we look in clothing. But I think if people really thought about that, this is correlated to your brain health. Every time you drink a soda, every time you eat a steak, every time you're sitting around on the IG for 6 hours instead of taking a brisk walk, you're not only affecting your weight, you're also affecting your brain health. I think people would look at this a little bit differently because when we do polls in community, just nationally, Alzheimer's disease is something that everyone says they're terrified of getting. And so we
Mm.
have to talk about dementia risk reduction early in our 20s and 30s and 40s and not in our 60s and 70s and 80s.
Is dementia, Alzheimer's, is it inherited or something that you contract as an individual?
There are less deterministic genes, meaning that if your mom or dad have it, you're definitely going to get it in Alzheimer's disease. But we are seeing a correlation there with this gene called the APOE. 4 gene. So if
Right.
your mom and your dad both have APOE4, and you can have 1, 2, 3, or 4, if they both have number 4, you have a higher propensity to developing Alzheimer's disease than someone else. Also, we're seeing more of a maternal relationship than a paternal relationship, meaning if your mom, your auntie, your grandmother all have Alzheimer's disease, some other form of dementia, then your risk increases. But it's not something that we're encouraging people to get genetic testing for, like we would do with the BRCA gene for breast cancer. So what we are seeing is that people inherit lifestyle and
Mm.
cultural things that are really increasing their risk, the way they eat, the way they engage, the communities they live in. And then also we see in the Black community, because stress, racism, social determinants of health, we've seen how they affect the Black population the most. And evidence shows that stress and all of these other factors are increasing our risk for Alzheimer's disease and other dementia as well. So sometimes it's less genetic and more environmental and lifestyle inheritance.
You know what? I have to elaborate on that just a little bit because I had this big debate with one of my partners. Man, diabetes and high blood pressure run in my family. My mama got it, my daddy got it. Yes, you eat the same pig feet, the same chitlins, the same thing they ate. Why wouldn't you have the same
Right,
things
right.
they had? Come on, man. It's not so much that it's inherited. You just inherited the diet that led them down
Yeah,
that path. So you think because they had it, you almost entitled to it. No, you're not. You're not entitled to it.
yes,
You don't have to get it. You have
you don't have to get
you
it.
have to, and just from a personal level, my mom and dad both drink, and me and my
Hmm.
sisters and brothers, we don't. Very social, very social. I can't say
Okay.
I don't, but it don't excite me one way or another. Okay, I
Hmm.
ran nightclubs
Hmm.
forever, and they saw me with a drink in my hand. They knew we were celebrating something because that's not something
Hmm.
I do.
Hmm.
And I got that because I did not like how alcohol did my mom and dad. So I had to break that
Hmm.
cycle, and that's something we have to do when it comes to food and
Hmm.
habits. If just because your mom and dad smoked, don't mean you have to smoke. Just
That's
because they
right.
ate, they love to eat pig feet and pork and whatever they ate that led
Hmm.
them there to demise of their health. You're
Yeah,
not you don't have to follow those footsteps. And I
yeah.
just had to say
And I
that.
think that's
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that's one of the conversations we're so hesitant to having in our community. They're like, oh, that's the culture. That's what we do,
No,
and it's like, it's not
no,
what we do. It's
no.
not. And so we have to do better. We have to support each other in doing better. And I think generationally, having these conversations that, I do a lot of research. I'm like one of those research nerds. And there are some studies saying there are some propensities for us to carry as Black folks a gene that says we intake and hold on to salt a little bit more than other um, cultures, other ethnic backgrounds. But that's not the reason. It's a very, very slow deterministic factor. The issues are what we eat, what we drink, our behaviors, our environment, and some are controlled, some we have no control over. But it's less of that, what we're inheriting from our parents, and more of what we're doing because we saw our parents and our grandparents doing, and we just feel like that's the norm. And so we have to break that the normalcy of eating poorly. We have to break the normalcy of not working out. We have to break the normalcy of saying, well, I got 3 hours of sleep and thinking that's a good sign of hustling in the streets. It's not. It's not a flex if you're not sleeping well. It's not. And you're working 2 to 3 jobs because you have to, but you're not able to balance your other lifestyle factors. So you're increasing your risk. So we have to work on this as a community, Lonzo.
I think probably one of the things that upsets me the most is somebody tells me I'll sleep when I'm dead. Huh?
My nana says that. My
I'll
nana
sleep when
still
I'm
says
dead.
that.
No, you're not sleeping. You're dead, fool. There's a difference, okay?
I
You can
know.
get up after
I'm
a
like,
good night. You can't get up after dead. It don't work like that. And it's just
I
amazing.
know.
It's just amazing at some of the things that people will adopt to justify
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad loved him to death. That was my best friend, and I was one of his favorite kids. And when he was diagnosed with high blood pressure, he had a heart attack, and he was diagnosed with high blood
Mm.
pressure. The doctor told him, Mr. Williams, you got to stop eating pork, you got to stop smoking, and you have to
Hmm.
stop drinking. You got to change your lifestyle. And I said, Dad, what you gonna do? I'm gonna change doctors. Huh?
Hmm.
And he says, I'm going out my
Oh,
way. And that was his attitude. If I'm going out, I'm going out my way. And he bought him. He got some money out of his house, and every day he had alcohol, cigarettes, and a barbecue. And it didn't kill him, but it gave him a massive stroke.
Mm-hmm.
It gave him a massive stroke,
Yeah.
and that right there probably was worse than him dying, because you watch him wither away over a period of 8 or 9 years, and that right
Yeah.
there can be very disturbing, you know. And again, his at being an old school dude from Mississippi, it was like, I'm doing it my way, and if I'm out of here,
Right.
I'm going out with a party, and I don't.
Yeah.
No, we got to do a little different, Doc. So anyway,
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
share that with
Yeah.
y'all. So, and so many people have that attitude. You know, I've seen
Yeah.
guys that,
They
you know,
do.
they've had heart attacks. They smoke cigars, and dude, you still
Mm-hmm.
smoking cigars after all that? Yeah, man. You know, if I'm gonna do them, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do me. A lot of them
Right.
say, I'm gonna die from something. You probably will, but why you want to kill yourself?
I, well, that's the thing right there. And I think, I mean, and some of it I know is rooted in culture, and some of it is rooted in the fact that, our ancestry not having and not being able to do. And so now coming from the distrust of the whole, healthcare industry. And so why should them tell me to do this? And I don't believe that if I do this, and my grandmother lived till she was 101, and she smoked and she drank and she ate poorly. And I get that. But we are generations past that. And so I feel like we're now allowing the healthcare industry, which still there's so much racism and bias in it, allowing us to now, because of our negative engagement, kill ourselves anyway, because we're not engaging, we're not receiving the information, and we're not using evidence-based information to help promote positive health and healing. And so I think, it's kind of like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And so I think when it comes from folks like you and I, and folks that people can trust, and folks that people know have their best intention at heart and are really authentic about it, then it makes a difference. And so that's why your podcast, events like this are really, really important, because I think that's how you change the narrative. It's not going to be my 95-year-old grandma is going to continue to tell me she's going to sleep when she's dead. But that's not something that I say to my children, and it's not something that I share in community. So I think we're seeing a turn, but it's a hard turn to make, but we just have to keep at it.
This is not a rowboat. This is a cruiser, a luxury cruiser. You can't turn it on a dime, okay? What they call it?
You can't turn it on the back.
Can't turn it on a dime, baby. And here's the bad part:
Exactly.
we're fighting tradition, fear.
Hmm.
A lot of times it's fear. A lot of
Hmm.
times it's tradition,
That's right.
and a lot of times it's just
Hmm.
peer pressure. You know, when
Yeah.
sometimes you go to a barbecue, and man, I don't do pork. Oh man, hey, you should Muslim? No, I just don't do pork. But I do. My daddy's doctor told him stop eating pork because it's bad for your heart, blood pressure.
Hmm.
I listened to him. My
Hmm.
daddy didn't, but
Hmm.
I did. So oh man,
Right.
I got to have me some.
Right.
Man, do your thing, dude. I'm not gonna hate on you. That's your thing, okay? I'm there. I'll be there for you, but to
Right.
work for you or not, okay? But don't impose it on me. And that, hey, do what you got to do, okay?
Right. Right. And I think the other part is we don't have to do an all or nothing. I think we also have to have the mindset is there are some things you can not do or do in smaller portions. So if you do eat pork, you have to eat it 5 days a week, and you have pork bacon every Sunday. And can you, if you're not, one who walks, maybe you don't have to walk or work out every day, then maybe I'm just going to walk on Tuesdays and Saturdays. So I think it's small portions. I mean, like when I first became a vegetarian, it wasn't like overnight, but again, began to introduce plant-based things into my diet. And so even now with my grandma, she's 95, she's going to eat the way that she likes to eat. I use plant-based butter, plant-based mayonnaise, and other things. I use egg whites instead of the full egg, turkey bacon instead of pork bacon. So there's small things that you can do. So I think when we're talking to that 50, 60, 70 plus generation, and especially older, it's less about saying you got to change everything. Because I know a lot of black folks not about to go out there and eat some kale, but how can you cook some greens a little healthier? And is mac and cheese a staple every Sunday, or maybe it's once a month in holidays? And so I think that's also one of the conversations we have to have. We have to be able to keep the richness of our culture, the richness of our comfort food, because I love it just like anyone else.
Yeah.
But also understanding there has to be, for optimal health, there has to be a balance. And so I think that's it. I'm like you, I'm not going to eat pork ever. But there are folks who do. And so maybe it's once a week that you now have that bacon or that ham sandwich.
I get it. Donna, tell them about your event one more time, please.
Great. So yeah, so the event again is going to be July 15th, which is next Thursday. I'm saying July, January 15th, next Thursday at the Dollar High Senior Center. It is at 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's being hosted by Councilman Jonathan Bowers, so we're excited about that. There's be flyers all around. It's Black Men and Dementia, but it's for men and women. The event is free. There'll be refreshments. We'll be showing a film. Parking is free. We really encourage you to come out, bring a friend. It's kind of kid friendly if the child is maybe 13 or over, because I feel like the next generation needs to know about this disease. Again, January 15th, 5:30 to 8 p.m. at the Dollar High in Compton.
Thank you very much. Anything else you want to tell them before we wrap up?
Well, I will let you know how to reach the Alzheimer's Association. You can call us at 800-272-3900, 800-272-3900. This is a 24/7 helpline and in 200 different languages. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you need some tips on how to work with your grandmother and that's when she's sleeping, that's when you're ready, you can call that line. And our website is alz.org. That's alz.org. And you can always reach out to me. Lonzo has my information for any support or navigation.
All right, folks. That's Tia Delaney Stewart. She's with Men in Dementia. The event's coming up on the 15th, folks. And if not, reach out for her anyway. Tia, pleasure talking to you, dear. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much, Lonzo, for your platform and doing what you do. Thank you so much.
Have a great day. All right.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.